Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to be making a mosaic tag. And I I don't know why this occurred to me. Gail Augustinelli did some mosaic tags and journal cards quite a long time ago. It's been ages since I have seen them, but somehow the idea of mosaics once again popped into my mind recently, and I just thought we'd give it a try. I did some a little bit of planning in my mind, and one is that I'm going to do a little bit of inking and stamping on one surface, and then I'm going to cut it apart into small pieces and make the mosaic on this dark surface. I've put some coffee dyed paper on the back here, so that can be the back of the tag. The reason that I'm just going to be doing stamping on this one is because I'm going to cut it apart. I want it to be really flat, so I don't want lots of layers. And so I've got a little piece of office hanging folder paper that I use a lot, and I want to show you. I think that these measurements are going to work okay. I made my backing tag. These were just my notes I jotted down to myself, and so I thought I would share with you. I made the backing tag 4 inches by 7.5 inches. That should still fit nicely on a regular size journal page. And the mosaic tag, the one that's going to be cut apart, I cut 2 3/4 by 6. You can see it looks a lot smaller here, but I'm going to be gaining some space when I cut it apart and spread out those pieces of the mosaic. So let's just get started and see how it works. We will find out, right? What I have in my mind for the mosaic piece is just a little bit of a garden scene, and this is just a piece of copy paper that I have gotten out of my scrap bin. It'd be nice with book page as well, now that I think about it, but I just had this little blending thing on my mind using some distress inks. And a little bit of blue sky. We're just going to blend in here for the background. I do love these blending brushes. I've talked about them before. I have used them for a long time. They are nice quality brushes. I think I could have gotten a better bargain if I'd waited a few years to get them, but nonetheless, there they are. Okay, there's my grass, there's my sky, and I'm going into one of my Stampin' Up stamp sets called Delicate Dahlias. This is something I got as a freebie from Celebration. I can't remember if it was 2 years ago or however long ago it was. I haven't gotten any Stampin' Up products for quite a while because I'm pretty stocked up on things, but this is a pretty piece. So let me begin by getting out one of my big acrylic blocks, and I'm going to start with the outline of this dahlia, and I think I'm going to put it right here because I think I want it to kind of come off the page. I want this to be a little offset. Did I get it all there? Oh, I got most of it. And let's see how that works. I'm mindful of the fact that I'm going to be doing some slicing off the top here, so I don't want to do a whole lot of stamping or visual embellishment up way at the top of that. There, that outline came out nice. I haven't used this, I have not used this very much, this particular piece, because it's kind of hard to lay. It's what they call the two-step stamp technique. But it's a little challenging to get things lined up, and I think, oh golly, I think this might be, I kind of have to get right over it to see what lines up. I should have done some markings or something there. That might be close enough. That might be close enough. I decided I wanted to use this kind of peachy color. And I'm gonna kind of poke my head in here a little bit more. You know what? I'm gonna pause this because I really want this to line up nicely. So I will be right back. Okay, I think I got this lined up, but it took a while. So you might have been super bored if you waited for me to get those lines lined up. There we go. That looks nice. That looks nice. This is a pretty stamp set. They do a nice job, certainly, with the quality of their stamps. And now let me put a little bit of leafage, a little bit of foliage in here. I'm going to close up my, what is this one called? Grapefruit Grove. You can tell I haven't purchased any Stampin' Up! Stamps for quite a while because a lot of my colors are their old colors. They change, as you know, as any manufacturer does. You know, they have to depend on new sales, so they change their colors out a lot. And mine are some of the antiquated ones, but you know what? They still work. I'm gonna put this here, and then I'm gonna pull out my green to fill in those outlines. This is that broken pad I'm wrestling with. I kind of want to leave this spot open because I want to do a little bit of punching out of that. And not a complete alignment, but something that is pretty close. Yeah, that one's better. That one's better. And then I kind of had in mind that I wanted to put a couple of little dragonflies. These are not from that same stamp set, but I got this little dragonfly ready because he is really cute. So let's put a little dragonfly there, and I'm getting kind of close up here to the top one, but I think I'm going to be okay with that. There's a little dragonfly couple that's floating there above that dahlia. There are a lot of beautiful dahlias in people's gardens right now. I don't have any dahlias. They don't seem to fit my garden style that much, but I very much enjoy other people's dahlias. There's a lot of plants like that, you know, that for one reason or other just don't seem to suit me or my garden, but I really enjoy when I'm walking around the neighborhood. Roses are one. You know, we're in Portland, the Rose City. I love roses, but they just always seem like they're a lot of work. I'm going to be gluing my little stamped piece down to this now, so let's get started with that. There's another beautiful spring flower called, the common name is Candy Tuft. At least that's what we call it here, is Candy Tuft. I forget what the botanical or the scientific name is for it. But it's beautiful in the spring, and it's white, little small white blossoms that just cascade over the side of like a retaining wall or a garden space. And I just have never gotten those for my garden, but I have neighbors that have them, and I see them from my upstairs window. And I enjoy those Candy Tufts so much. And I have a whole list of things I really enjoy in other people's gardens, but I don't necessarily have to raise them myself. Do you have anything like that? Anyway, dahlias are on that list for me. I don't have to have all the things. I can still enjoy all the things. I've got a little bit of hangover here of that office hanging folder. So I'm going to trim off that tiny bit of excess. And then we're going to get to the trimming, which is the fiddly part of this project. This is not a fast project. I should have maybe said that from the onset. You may have figured out by now this is not going to be a super fast project, but I'm thinking it's going to have some really nice results. Let's find out together. There we go. Okay, now, the last little bit there. So again, in my mind, as I was laying awake at 3 in the morning thinking about this, I thought I would construct the shape of the whole tag and then do the cutting apart of it. So, and why don't I just do both of these? I'll use this corner round at the bottom because I want to have them mirror each other in shape and in spirit. And I think here's my little template. If you've been with me for a while, you've seen me use this template a lot. This is just an old gift card. I cut corners off on 4 different angles, and I use that as a template for cutting the tops of my tags. I just line it up here with the edges in place, and I let my scissors rest along the side of that plastic card, flip it over, and you're going to duplicate that angle. I did not invent this technique. A lot of clever people have passed that along to me. I'm going to use that same angle on this one. If I were doing a smaller tag for my final piece, I might have, or if I were leaving this larger tag instead of using the smaller tag on top of it, I would probably have a little more severe angle, but there's no particular. Okay, this I'm going to set aside again. Okay, we're going to be facing the moment of truth here. I am going to ink around the outside because this pretty little tag is about to get cut into pieces. So we'll just kind of see how that works. All right. I think for the circle, I want to punch that out before I cut these things apart. So I'm going to go right in here. And I think I'll just do that little punching right there. Okay. And I'm going to be inking this, but I think that's going to be easier to do once I have the whole thing pulled apart. I'm going to set this over, I'm going to set that apart and hope that I don't lose it because I'm going to go back to that. All right, now comes the cutting. I'm going to use my grid on my poor faded little, I think I'm going to use my bigger one, my poor faded little mat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my aluminum ruler right down the front. Here. Did I get the whole thing? No, gotta make one more pass. And then I'm gonna flip it around. And so this ruler is the width of all of my cuts because I'm going to be cutting squares here. Does it make you gasp a little bit to create a pretty piece of art and then cut it apart? This is making me think of quilting. I guess I still call myself a quilter, although it's been a couple of years since I've actually made a quilt. But once you have the skill and the interest in the fabric, I guess you can kind of always call yourself a quilter. Now, I'm going to have to cut like this, but I want to hold it together because it's going to all slide all over the place if I try to cut it without securing these vertical cuts. So I'm hoping this will work. Again, in my mind, I should do a whole nother channel called Crafting in My Mind at 3 a.m. All right, now this is just going to be a temporary hold. I always keep some washi tape that I'm not too crazy about here handy because it almost always plays into my projects at some point. To reassemble this. Tell me if you do crafting in your mind at 3 in the morning. I'm willing to bet that you do. I mean, sometimes there's real things that, you know, we're worrying about, but sometimes we're just thinking about craft projects. Okay, I think that's going to be close enough. Now I'm going to take this same ruler and I am going to just cut these pieces. That's not quite lined up. I'm going to need to redo that. You might have been saying, Anne, you need to shift it. If so, I heard you. All right. Okay, that's making me feel a little more confident. Now, yeah, I think I'm just going to start from the bottom and cut up. And I haven't done the math to see where that's going to... And I could start in the middle. Oh, no, Anne, you're overthinking. Let's just cut. These tags aren't going to make themselves. There's one. Don't think this would be really good for a mass make, but who knows? Well, that didn't completely get cut, but it's definitely almost there. So I'm going to snip that. I'll try to keep things kind of in place over here. Boy, I got a little piece there, don't I? There we go. Now, because I've chosen to use this ruler as a width determiner, that actually makes it pretty easy. I can bring you in a little bit closer, I think. Hope I'm still in frame there. Several passes will almost surely get the job done. We've had continue to have beautiful mornings. We've had some hot days here in Oregon. Grateful and fortunate to have an air conditioner for those hot days. But boy, the mornings, we've really been enjoying having the windows open. And yeah, we can come back out again. Whoops, wrong way. There we go. Okay, now comes, I would say, now comes the moment of truth. We've actually passed the moment of truth by cutting this. All right, here is my base piece. And I think I'm going to start from the top and work down. This, I could ink all, you know what? I think if you're with me, I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges here. I don't have to go wild with the inking. But I do think it's going to make everything stand out a little bit more. And I want to have this, I want to make certain that I get this in the top, that I have it sitting the right way. Because it's a little bit rectangular, but I think it can fit in right there. I could draw some guidelines, but I think I'm going to be okay with this. I'm using my art glitter glue because I can slide things around a little bit if I feel like I'm getting them crooked. But I have a little bit of a grid from the imprint of this pattern on this. This is just a piece of scrapbook paper. Yeah, I'm just going to start gluing these in place here. And, oh, there it is. Yep, let's just kind of keep going here. And truthfully, if I get things a little bit off center, I can go in and, it looks like that is a little bit off center. Can I still pull this up? Yeah, I'm gonna just nudge that over just a little bit. I've messed up the back of this just a bit, but I think that's gonna be okay. That little bit of mess is gonna show, but there we go. Yeah, I'm more satisfied with that. Maybe some markings would have been appropriate. Generally, I think we can trust our eyeballs when we do paper crafts. Some of my old quilting friends used to say, if you can't spot that error when you're galloping by on a horse, it doesn't matter. Okay, this glue is going to dry. That's kind of squishing out. Let's keep going. It's like putting a puzzle. Well, it's exactly like putting a puzzle together. There's that little dragonfly. And the reason I chose this brown paper for the background is I just really wanted a lot of contrast. I wanted to make certain that this mosaic stamp, this cut apart and put back together tag on top would, I just wanted to make certain it would really pop. And fiddly, yes, but look, we're making progress already. Anyway, our mornings have been really, really lovely. And this August is always the time, the garden time for me, when things just get in a tangle. And I just let them, you let those overgrown vines just kind of go where they want to go. I love August for that reason. I'm past the manicured persnickety stage of garden tending. And I think, yeah, that vine is flopping everywhere. It must be where it wants to go. Those pots, those flowers in the pots are overcrowding each other, and it's sort of like survival of the fittest. Which way do you want things to go? I kind of throw up my hands and say, you go after it, plants. You do what feels right. And I'm just going to sit back here and sip my coffee in the morning and enjoy watching your botanical antics. This is art glitter glue, as I've mentioned. I will say again, if you have not heard me say, maybe you've heard other crafters say, art glitter is simply the brand name. There is no glitter in it. There are such things as glitter glue. That's glue with glitter in it. Okay, this is the next row. But this, it's a white glue. It's a very fast drying glue, as you saw. So when you try to move things, you're not always going to be able to do it. But initially, if you have to squiggle things, nudge them around a little bit in the moments that you put things down, like I'm putting this down here, but I'm going to pull it. It gives me a few seconds to do that. A little bit of grace. But art glitter glue is a glue that I use constantly in my paper crafting life. I also use glue stick, and sometimes I use Fabri-Tac glue. It just depends on what I'm adhering to what. But I can get by perfectly nicely with those 3 glues. Occasionally I do use double-sided tape. You've seen me use that before. But really the glue, the big 3, the glue stick, the art glitter glue, and the Fabri-Tac, those are what work for me, and I have no need for any other adhesives. I have a box of glues, all of our household glues. We have the wood glue and a few other things that we use for things around the house. But as far as paper crafts, those are the 3 that I use. And I think most other crafters will tell you the same. Is that the right piece? Yes, it is. We're getting there. Now, how much space am I putting between these? Again, I'm eyeballing. I would say that's less than 1/8 of an inch. Maybe, well, it's more than a 1/16. But okay, am I messing up my pieces here? There we go. In the jigsaw puzzle of this project. So as soon as I'm done with this, I'll take my coffee cup outside and I'll sit and look and see what's tangling today. I'm waiting for my nasturtiums to bloom. I've talked about nasturtiums before. I love those. I planted them from seed this year. I planted them kind of late. I will try to do them earlier next year. So they're not blooming yet. Some of my volunteer, whoops, that one's kind of off, isn't it? Some of my volunteer nasturtiums that grew up from seed left behind after dropping off last year's plants, that is blooming already. But the stuff that I planted with seeds, or that I purchased, is still waiting to find its blossoms. But boy, those little vines are getting tangled up with everything. So I'm sure I'll be having some soon. I've been really enjoying my cherry tomatoes. We've been pulling those off the tomato plants and getting those thrown into salads last night. We had we've had some wonderful fresh green beans, and I've really enjoyed those. I have not grown the green beans. I'm growing the cherry tomatoes, and I'm growing another batch of lettuce that's really good. But the green beans I buy from a neighborhood. We have a share in a CSA, which, if you're not familiar with that concept, it's community supported agriculture, and small farmers raise lots of produce, and at the beginning of the season, or even before, like in January or February, people who wish to participate buy a share in that farmer's crop, and then in return for that investment that she uses to buy her seeds and her soil and her fertilizers and just her own time. In exchange for that investment, then we get a weekly supply of vegetables every year. So it's like buying all your vegetables, but doing it in advance. And I really enjoy that. We've been getting our fresh green beans and our kale and all of those things from her. Our neighborhood farmer is named Alyssa, and she is wonderful. Okay, this I think is turning out the way I had planned. Let me do what I want to do with this little thing, because you might have wondered what I'm going to do with this little circle. And my plan is to put it in, but to raise it up. That's kind of a card making technique. I'm going to put it on a little bit of a little foam dimensional. And I have this little stamp. I went searching for something that would fit in a circle this size. And I just am going to have this say hope. Because gardeners are always hopeful folks, I think. At least I feel hope when I'm out in my garden. Hope for many things. I'm going to drop this. I could just drop it right into this open circle, but I think I want to pop it up. I have these little squares, card makers use these a lot. You could also just put a few, this is just like a little foam. Well, they're not squares, they're hexagons. You could put, just a few layers of, little squares of paper underneath there too, if you wanted to get some visual dimension. But I'm just using this foam. It's thin enough that writing on the back of the card, will be fine. There we go. There's our mosaic. The more I think I'm enjoying it. I kind of wish maybe I had put an additional layer on this, like maybe ringed out the edge in white or something like that. I think I'm not going to fuss with it though, but I do think I want to put a little something on the back. Maybe a couple of those little dragonflies would be sweet. And I do like finishing off the back of a tag. There's two down there. And yeah, there is, a little bit of a bump there. If you're writing on the tag, you're going to want to, be mindful of that as you're writing. But it's not so bumpety. It's not like it's a big button or something that's, causing a huge, a huge rise in altitude there. Your pen might go a little bit askew if you're not expecting that. So, just expect that. I think I'm loving that. I think this will look really nice on a page. What do you think? We could put this in a pocket. We could actually, now that I've finished the back, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that it really could be like a nice little tuck spot all by itself. But let's go ahead and keep this as a tag, and let me grab something to put a hole in the top. As large of a tag as this is, I feel like a little hole would kind of look a little out of proportion. So I'm going to use my big slot punch here. And I've got this little scrap that has some kind of a peachy color that's not unlike the dahlia there. And let's just kind of tie that off. Do I want to put a little lace in there too? Let's try some lace and see if that adds anything, that brings anything to the party. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put both of those textiles in there, and let me grab a piece of thread from over here. One thing I have learned actually from some other folks on YouTube is that if you're putting a tag topper in, rather than actually tying a knot, like, you know, tying this whole thing in a knot, or, you know, threading it through with a loop like you would normally do. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is just sort of a thin thing, and if this was a smaller size tag, or maybe I was just using thread or something like this, I might thread the top of the tag topper like this and have it like that. But since I'm putting that, because this doesn't add a whole lot of extra bulk, but if I use that same technique with fabric, the whole thing would, you know, you'd have a great big knot there. And so that might be kind of less than optimal for you as you're trying to keep your journal from getting terribly, terribly chunky. And so what I almost always do, if I have kind of a thick material or substance that I'm putting on a tag topper, I just thread it through and lay it flat, and then I just use a thin piece of twine to tie it, and that bunches it together. You get a little bit of thickness from that bunching action, but it's not nearly so much as a knot would be. It keeps things much more flat. And that's why I always keep these little pieces of twine that are left over from sewing in signatures. I almost always have some sort of little scrap that are handy. Yeah, and you know, here's another, I'll use that again, so that goes back into the drawer. All right, friends, here's our mosaic tag. I like this, it's fiddly, but it was really fun to spend this time with you, and I think I'll try it again. It's like looking through a window, isn't it? With window panes. This might be really fun to do in the winter, like with a Christmas tree or something, and kind of, you know, a snowy outdoor scene, and do a mosaic and it looks like you're looking through a window. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.